Hello my little sparkles, I hope we are all well. Today I am working in my newest scrap therapy book. So this is for 8 by 8 pages. I have made the cover 8 1/4 by 8 1/4 so that when I add my layouts they are true 8 by 8 size. I do show you that shortly, me measuring it, checking that I'm giving you the right info. I am working with Simply Charming today. If you don't know already, I am guest designing for Rosie's studio, which is such an incredible opportunity. I'm so grateful. And this collection is adorable. I love it. The colours are perfect. The little icons are so cute. And so I am also working through old inspiration pics. So when I see something that I like, I tend to screenshot it, as I'm showing you here. This one is from the lovely 𝓤𝓲𝓬𝓪𝓵. I hope I'm saying that right. She is incredible. And when I saw this sequin picture from her Christmassy crafts, I knew I had to recreate it. The only issue is that I tend to screenshot these things and save them, and then they just stay in that folder forever. So I'm slowly working my way through getting some of these inspiration projects made, giving them a place in my crafty room, giving them time to actually come to life. So for this one, I am just picking out some little pieces from the ephemera. There are 2 ephemera packs and I'm going through both, and I'm just picking out anything that I think will be about the right size, and then I'm laying those out to sort of work out where I want the bigger pieces to sit. So I love that little parcel piece. I've got the word amazing. At this point, I haven't chosen my photo or my sequins or anything. I'm just working out which ephemera pieces I want to use. And as I'm doing this, I'm sort of putting them in lines, not perfect lines, but working out how many stitch lines I need to create to fill the space and still keep room for those ephemera pieces. Just marking out with a pencil where the top and bottom of those lines will be. Messing about and choosing all different bits. I want all of them. I want every single piece. And then I'm working out the best way to put these lines onto the paper. I don't want to draw the whole line. I just want to create the little holes for the needle to go through. So the best way that I've found is to use my cut and scoreboard. There is a slight gap in the place where I'm poking the holes in the trim and scoreboard, sorry. And so I'm using that sort of ditch to poke my tool through. The tool is from the We Are Memory Keepers bookbinding set. And then once I have punched the top and bottom holes, making sure obviously they're straight, that's what the cutting ruler was for, cutting board ruler. I'm just using this metal ruler, putting the ruler along, like from the top to the bottom hole to make sure it's straight again, and then poking a hole every 1 centimetre. You could definitely do them more or less often, it's entirely up to you. I would probably do every 2 centimetres if I did it again, but the 1 centimetre definitely means that your sequins do lay nicely, lay flat, so it's worth it, it just takes a bit more time. I'm using some embroidery floss that is in my stash. I have a bunch of colours, so I was choosing between a blue and a white, and I've gone for the white one because it will be mostly covered. So grabbing all of my sequins, I have emptied out some of the sequin mix that I made for the kit. I used the sprinkle mix that you get with the collection, and then I added some of my own sequins. Unfortunately, the sprinkles I can't put onto this unless I poked holes in them, and I think they would break. So I'm having to just use the sequins that match, and grabbing some extra ones out because I want to make sure I'm incorporating all the yellow and the blues as well. Right, so I've slowed this bit down and showing you that I'm literally just threading the needle through the centre of the sequins and then pushing them down onto the embroidery floss. You want to make sure that the sequins have a decent size hole in the middle. So I did try to use some little beads, but they wouldn't go over the needle. So you either need a thinner needle or bigger beads. But I worked with just the sequins this time because they looked great and I couldn't be bothered to mess about finding new beads. Again, showing you in real time, straight through the centre of the sequin, down onto the embroidery floss. I added around 3 sequins for each little stitch. Down into the next hole, and then we come up through the next one. It does leave a gap, but you will come back up later on and fill in all those gaps, which I do show you. So don't panic when you're leaving spaces. Just messing with my sequins and making sure they're laying the way I want them to. And then up through the next hole, ready to put some more sequins on. Make sure as well to add your little ephemera pieces. I did forget a few times, but it's easy to fix at the end if you have forgotten. So don't panic too much. I've sped this up, so just adding more sequins. Like I said, an average of 3 on each stitch. Some of them have less. Down through the next hole and then up through the next one after I've sorted out my sequins. Making sure they're positioned where I want them. And then we just continue all the way to the bottom of that row. To add my little die cut pieces, I'm just poking a hole through where I want them attached and then adding them on just like the sequins, like so. I do go back and use foam tape to stick them down just so they lay exactly where I want them, but it isn't necessary. You could definitely just leave them as they are. And it's that simple to add on your little icons. It would be fun to add little puffy stickers on here as well. And charms, you could definitely add charms. You could do so much with this design. It is time intensive, but I really think it's worth it. It looks so pretty in the end. So I speed along doing the rest of this row. I do skip you forward momentarily. Don't worry, I don't make you watch me stitch the entire thing. Just enough so that I can show you what's going on. Separating the sequins there. So this is how it looks when you're going down. As you can see, you sort of skip each stitch, but you will come back and fill them in, don't worry. So once I have reached the bottom of that row, I'm showing you how I'm going back to fill in those gaps. So you would have gone down into the last hole, then you want to come back up through the next one above it, like so. So you can come back up through the sequin that's already there, or you can come back up under it. It doesn't matter too much. It depends how you want it to look. And then on this set of stitching, I tended to add 1 or 2 sequins. I didn't feel like you needed quite as many to fill in the gaps. Just make sure that they are either sort of wedged underneath the sequins either side or on top, however you want them to be. Add your sequins and then back down into the next hole. Again, I've gone through the previous sequin, but you could go underneath it if you prefer. Make sure your sequins are laying as you want them to. And then just repeat the whole way up to the top. So back up through the next hole. Do I come up? I think I come up underneath this one. Oh no, through the die cut there. I skip you forward shortly. Nope, apparently I speed you up. I'm a bit rusty with my voiceovers, I apologise. I've had a horrible cold. You know the one. I'm sure you know the one. And I've just about got my voice back, so I am very rusty when it comes to voiceovers. I'm glad to be back at my desk though, back making videos. Back making pretty things. There we go, try not to get your thread tangled like I did. This is a nice craft to do, or a nice layout to do, sorry, while you're watching a film or maybe sitting on the sofa or something. A nice simple one. This is where I'm adding those little foam dots just to hold my die cut pieces in place. I wanted them permanently in a spot, but you don't have to do that. You could leave them dangling wherever they fancy. Adding some extra sequins because I thought I needed a bit more variety there. And just continuing up the row. I have used different sizes of sequins, which I recommend. I think it adds a bit of extra texture to have them in different sizes. I am really excited to work through some of my inspiration pictures. I have made a little folder so I can go through and pick one each time I've got some time to craft. I'm excited to get them out of my head and onto paper, so if anyone else has a folder like that, let me know. I can't be the only one that has a list of projects they want to try. I also might change the binding of this scrap therapy book. So this one has rings, but I'm thinking of making it a Coptic bound book. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Do you prefer the ring bound or the Coptic one? So I have skipped forward and I've finished 2 rows. At this point, I decide there is no point doing the entire next 3 rows if I'm going to have a photo, because I will cover a bunch of the stitching up and I'm far too lazy to do all that work and cover it up. So this mini die is actually also from Rosie Studio. It's on my desk because it came with the collection, and I'm just working out, I'm using that sort of as a photo placeholder and working out where my lines need to stop and start so that they will be seen around the photo. And then I'm just stitching those bits because, again, I don't see the point in doing it and then covering it all up. Exactly the same sequence as before, up and down. There we are, skip right forward, we're nearly finished. I am using the negative space of the foam dots to go onto the back of this tag, so I've decided to put this as like the last ephemera piece on that bottom right corner there. I try to use the negative space for the foam dots just because why not? It works exactly the same and it saves me buying new sets, new sets of foam pads. So this is the stitching, what I think is complete. But now I need to find a photo, and also I've decided to add some extra bits. So if you have forgotten to stitch anything on that you really wanted to use a little foam dot or a piece of glue or whatever, and just tuck it under the sequins and you can't tell that it's not stitched in place. It looks pretty much the same. Popping my photo placeholder there so I can work out how many other little bits I want to add. So sorry, as I was saying, I needed to choose a photo. I was stuck between 2 because they both had the perfect colour scheme for this layout. And I actually choose the most gorgeous photo of my niece from when she was younger. It is one of my favourite pictures. She is so incredibly adorable. And I haven't scrapbooked this one yet, so I'm really excited to get it into an album. Again, using the negative space for that foam dot pad. Losing all my words here. This is the photo that I was telling you about. I love it. I love how it matches. I love her little face. And when I pop it on there, I decided that actually it would look cuter as more of a square picture. And then I could complete the stitching on the last row and have more sequins and just as much of my gorgeous niece. So I pop that there, decide, yep, I do need to add some more sequins. You can see those magically appear. That is not how it happened in real life. Took me a while, but it was very easy to just go over the bit that I had left blank. I just added some more embroidery floss to my needle and started again up and down. These papers are beautiful. It took me so long to choose which ones to use. The one that I am backing the photo with was a scrap piece from, what did I make? The little suitcases that I made. There's pictures of those on Instagram. I'm not sure if I have a video up. I'll link it if I do. Adding some foam tape to the back of the photo and popping it onto this gorgeous floral scrap. I try to choose between the blue and the pink, and I can't, so I actually end up with a really fun background. I decide to use both. Now, I did cut my white piece to, I can't remember exactly, it was smaller than 8 by 8 because I knew I was going to back it. So I've cut my blue piece to 8 by 8. I am cutting the pink one to 1/8 of an inch smaller than that. And my white one must be 1/8 of an inch smaller again. Now, I don't think you can see enough of the pink one, so I decide to cut my white piece slightly smaller. Luckily for me, where my sequin strands are, it still allows me to do that. So I just cut a tiny bit off of 2 of the edges. And then I really don't want to use all of that pink paper, especially if I'm not going to see it. So I go back to my cutting board and I cut out the centre. Does anyone else remember doing that? I feel like it was really popular at one point and then I haven't seen it for ages. Also, I'm going to tear the edges in some parts, so again you can see more of that gorgeous background paper. So the pink really shines through like that, I think. I'm sure momentarily I decide that I want to save some of that pink paper. I'm just trying to work out which order I'm having them in because I want the background piece to be complete so that it will be a nice page in the book. There we go, so I'm just cutting out the centre and I will keep that scrap for later. I can't bear covering that much of it up and not having it to use. Using my 𝓲𝓬𝓬𝓪 glue that Chloe very kindly gifted me, and I love it. I am absolutely in love with it. And the packaging is just beautiful for that glue, isn't it? It's the one with the diamond on top. Adding some to the pink one as well. I have only added around that centre square because I want to be able to fold in the edges of the pink one as well. I will show you momentarily what I mean. Sticking down the white one as well. So like this, I want to fold some of the pink paper back so that you can see more of the blue as well. I think that really adds to the layers. Makes you notice every paper, which I really love. It's time to stick down my photo. Again, more negative space from this foam sheet. Popping that in the centre. And then I'm adding some foam pads onto the corners of the picture and just sticking that on there. With this collection, you get some gorgeous alphas, and I knew I wanted to include those, so I grabbed them out and I decided to just use her name. I think that's a nice thing to pop on there, and I wasn't sure what else to call the layout, so I'm just writing out Brooke in all of the different colours. I really love how this palette goes together. I have them in a line. I decide I don't love that, so I start adding some extra ephemera pieces to try and work out my next step. If I get stuck, I tend to do that, move on to something else and then come back to it. And I decide to write Brooke along this side of the tag and have it sort of jaunty looking. So not perfectly straight. In fact, it's not jaunty enough. I go back and move some of the letters. There we go. I'm trying to decide something to add on that corner. I love the mouse. I love the little crown. I love so many of these icons, but I decided to go with the crown. And I still think we need something else on that tag. So I pull out the stickers. There are some word stickers in this pack. And then what was the other one? I showed you it a second ago. I think it was just bigger sentiments. And I go for playtime. I had loved on there, but I didn't love the colour, how it matched. So I go for playtime and the little things, I think. I'm trying to read it on the screen. And then it says lovely. The lovely ends up in that top left corner because they never stick back on the sheet right. And I wanted something up there and the colours match perfect, so it worked out great. Popping down the rest of these little embellishments. Adding that adorable crown. It's so strange because usually I go back and add gems and things, but I just didn't think it needed them with all the sequins. So I add a little bit of extra ripping on the white piece. I try and add it on the pink and decide I don't like it. So the top and bottom are just going to be the white folded and not the pink. And we are done. So this is my cute pastel sequin layout. I hope I have done the inspiration proud, and I hope you have enjoyed hanging out and crafting with me. I do have a 10% off voucher for Rosie Studio. So if you'd like 10% off your order, use PSparkle10 and let me know what you buy. Their new stuff is gorgeous. I will be back to craft again with you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.